Everyone, and welcome to tonight's SPRC meeting. For the record, my name is Daniel Weir. I am the project chair for the OneRosslyn SPRC project, application review project. Again, welcome to this May 1st, 2025 Site Plan Review Committee subgroup meeting. We'll be holding a hybrid public meeting which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia per the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for the OneRosslyn project participating both here in person are participating both here in person and virtually. I'm reading a script if anyone hasn't picked up on that by now. Are in person and virtually through electronic means. So at this time, to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting will be run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically using the Microsoft Teams link that's provided on the SPRC webpage, the project page, the county's events calendar, and the email notifications sent out to SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there's a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. I don't see any phone numbers yet, but I'll still cover that in a moment. For SPRC subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during tonight's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. And please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For virtual attendees using Teams, please also turn off your video feed. I will address when it's appropriate to turn it on momentarily. For the Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes: for SPRC subgroup members who need technical assistance, and for members of the public to add their names to the list for public comment, which will be taken at the end of the meeting. It should not be used for discussion. Those who were planning to provide public comment will still need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the Teams chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public comment period. For subgroup members participating virtually, we do have some who wish to be recognized to speak on an item. Please, when you wish to be recognized to speak, please turn your video feed on and raise your hand in Teams. We'll monitor the video feeds as an indicator of who would like to speak, and the hands as an indicator of who is first, who raised their hand first. If you're participating by phone, so if you have to drop off and call back in by phone without the video feed option, please announce your name when you are called upon and the group you're representing. We don't have anyone now, but we'll go back to this if we need it. And we will verbally also check in to see if you wish to be recognized, since you don't have that video feed option. For members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, they'll be called upon at the end of the meeting and will be allotted 2 to 3 minutes to speak. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have in the evening and the point in time in the evening that we are able to move to public comment. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat if you're a virtual attendee, or provide staff with your name in person. There is a sheet that is circulating. Does anyone have the sign-up sheet? You can raise your hand with it. Thank you. So there are 2 sign-up sheets actually that are circulating. One is the sign-in sheet. If you are an SPRC member, be sure to sign in. And if you are not an SPRC member and want to receive communications for this project and others, then sign that sheet as well. If you want to sign for public comment, make sure to sign the public comment sheet. Otherwise, and I say this tongue-in-cheek, but this has happened more than once. Sign the right sheet so that you get called on instead of just getting emails that you might. Finally, a reminder that this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to Freedom of Information Act requirements. We will go, we are going to do our check-in, our sort of around the table for who's here. I ask when we go around the table that you say your name and your affiliation. When we get to questions and discussion, a reminder up front that I'm going to ask people to give their name and affiliation at least the first time that they speak as well. So again, I am Daniel Weir, chairing with the Planning Commission and chairing this project, and we'll go to my left.
Lori Martin, Turnberry Tower.
Thank you, Lori.
Adam Green with Public Art.
Stanley Peterson, Planning Commission.
Steve Sockwell, Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
Mary Brown, OneRosslyn Civic Association.
My name is Tony Strader. I'm with the Planning Commission.
I'm Liliana Diaz and I'm with the Energy and Climate and Environment Commission.
I'm Sohail Hussain. I'm with the Transportation Commission.
Hi, I'm Gabriella Green. I'm a planner and I'm with Arlington County.
I am Trump Source. I'm with Penzance applicant.
I'm Alan Beal. I'm with Studios Architecture with the applicant.
I'm Guy Almeida. I'm with Hickok Cole, architect.
Jim Lantelli, Planning Commission.
Robert Gibson with Arlington County DES Transportation.
Adam Watson, Arlington County Planning.
Do we have anyone in the periphery who is, should be at the table? And is there a chance that someone, we could get you at the table?
We can scoot.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Clara?
By Mark.
Claire, and your last name? With Parks. Okay, so one more.
Jojen Grandy, Land Design, Landscape Architect for the app.
Thanks. You said Parks and Rec, right? Okay, thanks. Online.
We got Eric Goodman from.
Planning Commission.
Go ahead, Karen.
Karen Guevara, Planning Commission.
And Eric Goodman with the Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Are we doing you or the?
Well, the applicant.
Yeah, we go first.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I apologize. Thank you for the, Mr. Wing, for the reminder. We're gonna go around the back of the room too, and everyone should say, who you are and where you're with as well. And we'll start with you.
Hi, Aaron Roberts, Chair of Planning and Zoning for the North Everett Civic Association. And, be here.
Chris Lent, I live in Penrose. I was formerly Chair of Transportation Commission.
John Kelly, a resident of North Island.
Mike Doyle of Arlington Families for Safe Streets.
Everybody, Allie Henry, I'm the Senior Team Planning Director for the Roslyn bid.
I'm Jason Kohler, Landscape Architect.
Jack Rushford with the applicant.
John Bensky Bowman Engineering. Yeah.
Jason Valley, Hickok Cole Architects with the applicant.
Brian.
Studios Architecture here on behalf of the applicant.
Bizan Qureshi with Penzance, the applicant.
Kendrick Whitmore, I'm with them.
Thank you again, Mr. Whitmore. My apologies for this. Still haven't fully acclimated to post 2020 process. And is there anyone else online that we?
No, I think we got everybody.
Okay.
We have our presentation that the architecture team will start out.
Right. Good evening, and again, thank you for having us back tonight to continue sharing updates on the OneRosslyn project. Again, I'm Guy Almeida, I'm Associate Principal and Design Director at Hickok Cole, the architecture firm located in Penzance, and the rest of the design team on this project. This evening, we'll walk through several updates we've made in response to feedback from our last SPRC meeting. Our presentation will also include an overview of site and transportation related issues, a review of our landscape approach, and a look at anticipated construction timelines, which will be shared by the owner. To begin, I'll walk us through the evolution of the Northwest Tower design, highlighting how we've addressed feedback from staff and from the previous SPRC discussion. Then I'll hand it over to Jojen Grandy from Land Design, who will present our strategy for engaging with the new Gateway Park across the street, along with updates to 19th Street North to the 19th Street North Streetscape. So let's start with the Northwest Tower expression. Next slide. Oh, there's a lag.
The connection's not so good.
Quite a lag.
There you go.
All right. At our last meeting, the county encouraged us to explore opportunities for stronger podium presence on the northwest corner of the site. On this slide, you can see the previously proposed design for the corner of the northwest tower in both perspective and elevation. One of the key pieces of feedback we received was that the sector plan emphasizes a more defined transition between the podium and tower elements, and a second look at how the tower engages the base of the building is encouraged.
We tried meditation.
I can
That's right.
Tell some jokes.
It's a pretty, it's a very laggy connection to.
Normally this bad.
This happened the other night too.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop sharing.
I do need a little bit more bandwidth in the building.
Would think.
I'm gonna have smaller at the time.
Sharing, so. It's. Yes.
I mean, I have a PDF of it I can try.
Are you on the
I'm in
Arlington wireless network or are you on a phone? You're on the Arlington wireless?
Alan, if it's okay, let me see if I can run it from my computer. If that's okay.
And Alan, I don't know if you've sent the latest, there were a couple of small.
Yeah, I want to say, let me just email it to you. That's all right.
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
For anyone online who may not have, if the conversation didn't get picked up by the microphones, we're having a bit of a lag with the slides. And we're not sure exactly why, so we're emailing the slides from one machine to another to try sharing them into the meeting from a different machine. And hopefully it's not a Microsoft problem.
Okay.
We're still.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's, let me. Yeah, it's not coming, so I want to see if I can just go ahead.
How
For a
big
second.
it is?
I'm not sure. Barely.
Okay.
One of us.
Yeah, just not sharing cases with the slides.
Okay.
I think maybe by the time we get like the
We
size
might
of the chief, you can.
So share the one that you have.
Sure.
They'll just talk through it.
See if it's.
That's easy.
So we were on slide 6.
Okay. Hopefully.
So you're sharing, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, there we go, back in action. So on the left is the original Northwest Tower configuration, featuring a consistent application of balconies on the north elevation of the Northwest Tower at the corner of Langston and Fort Myer Drives. And on the right is our updated design, which reflects several iterations that were studied in response to your feedback. We've removed the balconies from the lower levels of the tower to better integrate the podium with the tower above, and importantly, better define the transition between podium and tower elements. This adjustment brings the architectural language of the Northwest Tower down to the base, enhances light and air access to the retail frontage below, and establishes a stronger, more continuous horizontal datum at the top of the podium. We believe these changes result in a clearer and more cohesive expression of balconies as a design element, and better define both the tower and the podium as part of the overall composition of this tower. So with that, I'll hand it over to Joe Giancarlo.
Thank you. Transition from Gateway Park. This is a follow-up item from SPRC 1. We were asked last time, can we go to the next slide, please, sir? We were asked last time to find a way to continue the expression of the park onto our site. We thought this was a good idea as well. We looked to find what design threads we could draw upon to help knit the two spaces together. Next slide, please. This diagram illustrates the revisions we made to the layout. For the planting material, the intent is to mirror and express the same lush plantings on our side of Langston. This would include matching the tree and understory plantings. This lush landscape material is also intended to extend down both streetscapes of North Meyer Drive and North Moore Street towards the heart of Roslyn. Our tree pits here are longer to better match the park, and we will pick up some of the same organic forms being used. These longer tree pits will help provide lush green experience on both sides of the street. These longer runs of tree pits will have less interruptions and help with pedestrian safety. Next. If we were to stand in this location today, we would be standing in a service road. Currently, the service road has no sidewalk along Langston. It has about a 5 to 6 foot walkway against the existing building. As seen here in the image, we are transforming this service road area into a new urban streetscape. We have generous sidewalks at about 11.5 clear width, and we are using the county standard paving, street lights, benches, and receptacles. As the park gets refined this year, we aim to coordinate with the design team for the park and the county to ensure a consistent biophilic experience. Next. We are also looking to continue the biophilia vertically up the building towards the podium. We aim to do this by providing a vegetating canopy. On screen, we have a few examples. Next. The canopy is proposed to have a span between the north towers, carrying the landscape material vertically. It is sized to provide adequate soil depth for the planting. The canopy will provide some privacy for the units above and help create additional protection from the elements for the retail shoppers and the people dining below. Next. Next, we'll cover the 19th Street streetscape. Follow-up item. You can go to the next slide. Our lush planting design continues down the streetscapes of Fort Myer and North Moore Street to terminate here at 19th Street. For this design, we have enlarged our tree pits to provide more greenery, while taking care that they have been coordinated with the vast amount of underground utilities in this area. This revised layout has relocated the planters to improve pedestrian circulation connectivity. We do have some steep slopes we are contending with here. Next slide, please. As shown in this rendering, we have reconfigured the retail entry of the South Tower to have feather steps. This allows for easier circulation and helping to accommodate the change in grade. Next slide. Landscape design. Listed here are biophilic principles we considered when designing each space. As we set out to do the landscape design, a direction started to reveal itself to us. The experience within each space wants to have a feeling of being surrounded by life, a sense of enclosure with green all around. We used this overarching idea to uniquely design each space, making sure the landscape design built upon the biophilic identity of each tower, all while also ensuring that each individual space is part of a whole environment. This can be experienced in the streetscapes where we are taking service roads and transforming them into walkable lush places, and at the podium level, where this large area is broken up into smaller spaces, which helps to create a sense of enclosure and being surrounded by life. Along with the biophilic design, we are also providing required elements such as bioretention at the podium level. We are meeting the tree replacement. We are meeting the biodiversity requirement, and we are exceeding our required tree canopy coverage by almost 4%.
Great. My name is Alan Beal. I'm the architect for the site planning. So this part of the presentation is new information on transportation. So it's an overview of the transportation aspects. So this is an existing aerial photograph. Next slide is actually, yes, an existing aerial photograph highlighting how the existing buildings are a relic of the 1960s and 70s Rosslyn urban planning. with service roads that loop around the site and are interrupting the pedestrian transitions, buildings that are deeply set back from the roads, and streetscaping and plantings that only front minimally, such as on Fort Myer Drive. Next slide. So highlighting some of the existing urban conditions on Langston Boulevard on the upper left, there's a lack of continuous streetscape and pedestrian pathways due to the service roads, narrow sidewalks, and lack of queuing area for people at the crosswalks. On 19th Street, there are narrow sidewalks, interruptions to the pedestrian paths of travel due to the service roads as well. And on Fort Myer, parking is prioritized on both Fort Myer and the service road over pedestrians, and a walking path on service road is unusable due to the narrow width and lack of continuity. Finally, on North Moore to the right, there are narrow sidewalks that lack streetscape and greenery. Next slide. So looking at this proposed development, which is something we're very excited about, knowing that, the goal of the sector plan is to sort of, create a more urban pedestrian friendly environment, bring buildings closer to the sidewalk, bring the sidewalk out, create more pedestrian friendly space. So looking at this development, the curb lines have been pulled out, much more pedestrian friendly. The development looked to deliver much needed into the neighborhood. The previous plan, the previous title plan only had 150 residential units. This one has 837, including for some for sale units as well. There's 15,000 square feet of retail split between the north and the south. On the north, the retail will help activate the new Gateway Park across the street and enliven the streetscape. On the south, it's sort of closer to the existing node of retail in Rosslyn and Metro. Overall, this will be enough for at least 3 to 5 new retailers, depending on size and final use. Each tower has its own lobby, as shown in yellow. So the northeast tower in the upper right, south at the bottom, and northwest to the left. And as well as and so one of the goals of this was to the design to consolidate and minimize the number of curb cuts on the site. So despite adding probably 5 times the current density that's there, the number of curb cuts is the same as what they're currently. So we're proposing just one garage entry for the entire development. And that's the blue arrow on the left. And then 2 loading entrances on the left. South loading. Sorry. Yeah, so 1 loading entrance to the north and 1 loading entrance to the south on North Moore. So as well as those are across the street from the current developments loading, so which will help assist with the loading of theirs as well. Finally, there are bike rooms at the ground level. It's a little hard to see, but in light blue, there's a bike room there for the south tower, and a bike room just above that for the northwest tower, and then a bike room as well for the northeast tower that's inboard but accessible from the street. Next slide. Overall, the site design will make it a much more pleasant experience for cyclists and pedestrians by adding bike lanes, more generous sidewalks, and crosswalk improvements. On-street parking will also be provided along Fort Myer, along with pickup drop-off on 19th and North Moore. And finally, protected bike lanes will be added along Langston and further meet the multimodal goals of the sector plan. Next slide. Another goal of the sector plan is to minimize interruptions to pedestrian routes. So for the proposed plan on the right, we have addressed this by consolidating curb cuts to the greatest extent possible. Last slide. The previous entitlement shown on the left was planned as a phased development. This is the 2012 entitlement. And it accommodated both existing and new loading via an open pedestrian service road that ran sort of east-west. But it's largely not possible today because this is a single phase development of a single connected garage. So while we have 3 curb cuts for the entire site, if we count sort of blue splotches on the left, there's I think 6 for that previous entitlement. Additionally, the service alley added a greater number of curb cuts and routed pedestrians down an alley with trucks and cars, potential safety conflicts there. So the next slide. So as we talk about construction and community benefits, and this is the part where we updated it, Adam. So I'm going to talk to the community benefits first.
Oh, okay.
So I can just sort of talk to it. So, you know, the slide that we have just sort of bullet pointed out some of the sustainability aspects of the project in addition to some community benefits. So the project will be achieving LEED Gold version 4 multi-family mid-rise with over 20% energy savings over baseline. In addition, the project will participate in energy benchmarking reporting, providing water sense fixtures and Energy Star appliances. The project will also be providing EV parking, 4% day one, 50% EV ready. Site improvements will also further the goal of the sector plan by removing loop roads, enhancing and activating the public realm. And finally, the project's community benefits will include affordable housing and public arts. And so kind of talking about construction, last slide. We anticipate the project's timeline, you know, the 4.1 approval later this year, 12 to 18 months of design and permitting, so probably hopefully by the end of next year, and then roughly 3 years of construction after that. And it's all going to be built at once to minimize disruption and, you know, make it much more efficient. You know, and so a few other things here that we added to the slide is, you know, as Penzance has done in other projects in Arlington, they'll engage the community during the prior and during the construction process, keep them informed, and, you know, and facilitate outreach through community liaison. In addition, the construction manager will be mindful of the community with set hauling routes in place and construction worker parking, construction hours limited as required. So that was it. So last slide. I just sort of wanted to say how excited we are about this project, how excited we are to share the project, and wanted to thank everybody for their engagement in this process Thursday night. So thank you.
While Adam is getting his slides up, I want to make sure everyone is on the same page with respect to the last slide, and only because it took me a good 3 years into my tenure in the Planning Commission to really understand this. The 4.1 approval means the land use entitlement, right? It means that from a zoning and land use perspective, the applicant is allowed to move on to the next part of the process, which is getting the plans approved, engineering approved, getting the permits to actually start building. So we are just talking about, you know, the permission to build the thing from a zoning perspective. I like to mention that because for whatever reason, probably my own slowness, it took me a while to understand that there was another, you know, process beyond what we're involved in.
Thank you. Yeah. So good evening, everybody. My name is Adam Watson. I'm with Arlington County Planning. I appreciate you all squeezing in this room. This is the largest room we had available in the building tonight. So appreciate everybody being here and getting cozy. So I'm going to talk about our process and our next steps and talk a little bit about landscaping before I turn it over to my colleague, Rob Gibson, with the Department of Environmental Services. And then lastly, I will touch on community benefits before we get to the SPRC discussion. So we are now at our second SPRC meeting here on May 1st. We had our online engagement back in February. We got a lot of really great feedback from everybody. All the results are available to view on the project webpage if you want to go back and look at what the comments were. We met at the end of March to talk about land use density, building height, form and architecture, which you heard from the applicant this evening, some of the responses to the comments that were heard at that meeting. Tonight, we're going to be talking about transportation, landscaping, biophilia, and sustainability, and community benefits in construction. So where do we go from here? Next, we will go to our various commission hearings. We don't yet know for sure what date that will be, but likely in July timeframe. So this would go to the Transportation Commission and the Planning Commission in the same month. It would also, if it goes in July, it would also go to the county board that same month. Site location. This is, you know, we're at 1901 and 1911 Fort Myer Drive. I think the applicant covered this well in their presentation, so I'm going to skip ahead. Staff is evaluating this development proposal against our adopted plans and policies. And so listed here on the screen are some of those key policies. So we have the Roslyn Sector Plan, which was adopted in 2015. We have our off-street parking guidelines for residential buildings. We also have a core of Roslyn transportation study that was done in 2019 and the Gateway Park Master Plan, which was just adopted by the county board in December of last year. Sustainability. I just wanted to touch on the applicant's sustainability proposal briefly. I think Alan just mentioned this. We talked about this a little bit at the last SPRC meeting, but just to reiterate, the applicant is proposing to achieve LEED Gold here. They're not asking for bonus density or additional density, excuse me, through our green building incentive policy, but they are committing to doing some things that are part of that policy. Anyway, and that includes things like the Energy Star appliances and fixtures, the WaterSense plumbing, the energy cost savings that Alan mentioned, the air and the duct leakage, and then the EV charging with 4% installed and then 15% EV ready. So this proposal does meet the sector plan's recommendation for achieving LEED Silver or above. Just briefly to talk about landscaping and streetscapes, and this will bleed a little bit into what Mr. Gibson's going to speak about here next. But this proposal overall really does further the sector plan principles and policies when it comes to landscaping and our streetscapes. And so here on the screen are just a couple of principles and policies taken from the sector plan that illustrate how this is being done. So, you know, the sector plan calls for having sidewalks and streets that are designed for everyone, having tree-lined streets, having a lot of extra tree canopy, and improving streetscapes in Roslyn with adequate space, furnishings, public art, sidewalk cafes, et cetera. So right now today, there are, for example, not even trees at the back of the curb, all the way around the periphery of the site. So just taking as an example, the existing conditions on Langston Boulevard today, which is the top image on the right-hand side of the screen, and then comparing that against what the applicant is proposing. Overall, reclaiming a lot more space for pedestrians and closing off some of these antiquated automotive uses and design. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Gibson.
Thank you. So as Adam mentioned, staff's role principally in these process is to review projects against the established policies in the county, and then to coordinate our review against all of the other projects that are going on in the area, and make sure that the projects are designed consistent with county standards. The county has really a number of layers of plans which we use to evaluate these projects. From a transportation perspective, at the high level, we have the master transportation plan. And then as we go down into the sector plan level, in this case, the Roslyn sector plan, the Roslyn sector plan has a number of goals and policies which really relate to how transportation will be reshaped at this site and the adjacent sites. It's not this site, while it's very important to do this, it doesn't work without what is and has gone on in the blocks east and west of this project. The recently delivered hotel project to the west and the under construction RCA project to the east create a transformed segment along eastbound Langston Boulevard, along with improved streetscapes and street network on 4 Mile Drive and 4 Mile Drive, Moore, and 19th Streets. So we're looking at some of the policies here. I'm not going to read all of these. I've highlighted them for your reference later. But generally speaking, one of the key goals of the sector plan is to improve pedestrian level activation, use, and environment. And this project does that in a number of ways, which the applicant has discussed, and I'll talk about a few others as we move forward. Next. Good. Sorry. Nope, you're good. And I think, as I mentioned before, one of the key policies that is in the transportation goal, number 3, policy number 7, improve walking experience for with wider sidewalks, new walking conditions, strategies to reduce topographic barriers, safe street crossings, and enhancements to the streetscape aesthetics. Okay, and that works with our urban design policies in the sector plan. Some facts to point out about the sector plan. The sector plan talks about recommendations for the streetscape. All of the streets surrounding the site are identified in the sector plan as 15 to 19 foot streetscapes. The streetscapes in the sector plan generally consist of 3 elements: a tree and planting zone adjacent to the travel lanes, then a clear sidewalk zone, and a shy zone and cafe zone that's adjacent to the building. In the case of the 15 to 19 foot streetscape, we might typically see a 6 foot planting zone, an 8 foot wide clear sidewalk, and then the cafe zone would change depending on the overall streetscape width. This project is coming forward with 18 foot streetscapes for Fort Myer Drive, 19th Street North, Langston, and North Moore Street. Along Langston Boulevard, a 22 foot wide streetscape is proposed. So all of the streetscapes are consistent or exceed the recommendations in the sector plan. In addition, I want to talk about, just before we go to the bikes, since this has the cross sections, you'll see that along both Langston Boulevard and 19th Street, new protected bike lanes are integrated into this project. The protected bike lanes were in the plans for both the hotel project and for the RCA project that is under construction. However, because of the way you would implement bike lanes, the hotel, which is delivered first, was not going to implement that segment of bike lane because it would dump people into a travel lane and otherwise be unsafe. So we are working to implement those bike facilities moving west incrementally. When the RCA project is completed, it will deliver the first segment. And then with this built out, we'll be able to deliver this and then reconfigure the segments of Langston Boulevard adjacent to the hotel to provide 3 contiguous blocks of westbound bike facilities. Eastbound bike facilities. Of note, along Fort Myer Drive, the hotel also is delivering a sidewalk grade cycle track type facility for that, which is integrated into the sector plan. So there's protected bike facilities on 3 of the 4 sides of this project. Next. I've pretty much covered that in this just a second ago. However, this slide does show the sector plan's overall goals for the bike network, and how we're looking at a bi-directional pair of bicycle facilities on Lynn and Fort Myer, and then additional connections throughout the area with improvements along Langston Boulevard and other portions of the Rosslyn neighborhood. Next. There's been some question about the through block connection that was previously approved in the sector in the 2012 approval of this project. Having worked on that project when it went through, I don't think my memory is good enough to say that I remember exactly what happened, but the sector plan generally gives us a good idea that while there was a through block connection, it wasn't envisioned as a principal pedestrian access point. Rather, it was a pedestrian point of opportunity. If cars were going to go through there, we wanted to make sure that pedestrians would be able to feel safe going through that also.
Raised above it with a walkway also.
I'm not sure about that, but okay, I'm gonna have to. We'll check into that.
But yes, it was silly, but yes.
now you may be thinking about the existing site as it existed around that same time that did have a number of additional sky bridges that have since been taken down. But it did include the alley. That alley made it into the sector plan and is shown diagrammatically in the street circulation plan, but it wasn't intended as a principal pedestrian area. And I think that was one of the questions we had last time. So we just wanted to clarify that. The parking and loading aspects, the applicants talked about this a little bit. Generally speaking, there's going to be about 620 parking spaces supporting the 3 towers. And I think one of the most important parts of both of these projects is that they've found similar but different ways to accommodate one of the biggest challenges along urban building frontages, which is the penetrations associated with garage entries and loading spaces, particularly loading spaces, because as a building gets taller, it needs more loading. That only makes those areas dead and wide. And so in this case, the applicant has consolidated the loading for this project interior to the project, utilized 2 curb cuts off of North Moore Street, and demonstrated that all of the loading maneuvers can happen within the loading garage, allowing head-in, head-out operations, which is the safest approach for pedestrian access along the frontage. That is, that's more ideal, but it is not the universal treatment. You see across the street at the RCA project, which is a much narrower site, much different site constraints, that vehicles will have to back in on North Moore Street into their loading facilities. And so that's a point of what was approved. And then the parking access is exclusively off North Fort Myer. And that's also provides head-in, head-out access. For just accounting purposes, there are a total of 8 loading spaces in the project, 6 for the residential and 2 for retail specifically. We've had some questions about the skywalk system. This is, as stated in the sector plan, Roslyn sector plan reinforces recent county policy in recommending the continued demolition of the skywalk system. The ongoing redevelopment of many Roslyn's 1960s and 70s vintage buildings offers important opportunity for new buildings to offer improved ground level building use and design, as discussed in the urban design and building form sections of the sector plan. I'm not trying to debate the wisdom of the sector plan. I'm just pointing it out that that's the approved policy. Thank you. We also talked about briefly what staff's role is. We normally don't talk about this in SPRC. We kind of just pass over it. We take it for granted. But in Roslyn, with so much going on, I think it's important to highlight what staff is doing behind the scenes. I represent a very large team in DES that reviews these plans from safety perspective, infrastructure perspective, our urban design elements, and streetscape, the different amenities that we're providing, including bike, transit, and other streetscape amenities. And so in this process, staff is looking at the adjacent projects to ensure that lanes are lining up well and connecting appropriately. The sidewalks have appropriate connected and ADA accessible handicap ramps. That's part of what we're doing from a development perspective, but we're also coordinating that with a pretty substantial volume of capital improvements within the Roslyn area. Specifically, we have Fort Myer Drive sidewalk improvements that are focusing on the eastbound Langston Boulevard and Fort Myer intersection to improve those crossings and the signal conditions there. Not only do we have that primarily hard infrastructure project, but we've also implemented the Vision Zero signal improvements at that intersection, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with, have reconfigured the operations there such that the southbound left turn from Fort Myer onto eastbound Langston Boulevard no longer occurs in conflict with pedestrians crossing Langston Boulevard. And so that's recently been implemented. We know that that's certainly a best practice, and we're looking forward to seeing that have an impact on observed crash incidences. And so there's that. Then we have the Rosslyn two-way project. That's our staff is coordinating and reviewing all of that. Those are the most adjacent projects, but we also have a whole suite of additional projects within Rosslyn that are being coordinated and looked at in conjunction with development work. Thank you. One other thing, I think I kind of took this for granted and put the slide in the last minute, but we forget that this is a principally office site today. It's got terrible configuration of the streets, but in addition to that, the office project generates traffic. Just like everybody else, that's not a bad thing. We live our lives, we move around. Traffic and movement is important, but converting this from an office site to this residential, while you're almost tripling or quadrupling the density, the actual vehicle generation during the peak hours will go down as offices generate about 3 to 4 times as much traffic per square footage. It's pretty simple to think about. A house has about 1,000 square feet and a family in it. An office in 1,000 square feet, you might have 4 employees or more. And so that sort of crosswalks that kind of makes sense now. And so it's not a huge reduction from the existing uses, but it is a reduction from the existing uses. And we haven't run the numbers, maybe Felice has, but it would be a substantial reduction from what has already been approved and could be built today on the site with the mix of office and residential approved in 2012. And with that,
Me? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about community benefits briefly. So when I use that term community benefits, I'm talking about what the developer is asking from the county board in terms of earning additional density above the base density, which for this zoning district is 4.8 FAR. And the county board can approve additional density for a project when the developer is constructing certain features or providing certain services or amenities that are identified specifically in the Rosslyn site. And so the image capture on the right-hand side of the screen is actually just verbatim from the sector plan, showing you that list of things to consider for extraordinary density. And so the draft proposal we have is targeting on-site affordable housing, focusing on family-sized units. The sector plan recommends that up to 30% of the total value of this benefits package be devoted to on-site affordable housing. Unfortunately, as of tonight, I do not yet know the unit count or the exact unit mix, but that is something that we will know by Planning Commission time. So please stay tuned for that and know that that's what the focus has been on. The second thing would be monetary contributions. It's highlighting on the list that that's the affordable housing here, and then also down here off-site park and transportation improvements identified in the plan. So we're looking at near-term off-site public space and transportation improvements. And just as example, that could be additional money for Gateway Park and money for Core of Rosslyn transportation improvements. Okay, so what this package does not include are all the things Alan mentioned previously, which are sort of our standard site plan improvements. Some of these are standard, I'd say some of them are just sort of expectations of the sector plan, project specific things that we expect to be done with the site plan. So Two of those things that are unique to this project in particular, again, closing of all these existing loop roads around the site and bringing that building edge out to further out, for example, on Langston and changing it on 19th Street and doing it in conformance with the sector plan. Skywalk removal as identified in the sector plan. Streetscape improvements and construction, the protected bike lanes. There's going to be a base affordable housing contribution that's separate from what I just mentioned. I want to say that the base, if it was a cash contribution, the developer has an option here to do it on-site, off-site nearby, or somewhere else, or provide a cash contribution. I want to say it's around $3.7 million. Public art contribution, transportation demand management measures, in-building wireless for first responders, and then also utility fund contribution. So all of these things are just part of sort of a standard site plan improvement package for Rosslyn. Mr. Chair, with that, I think we are ready to pivot to our discussion again. Tonight, we're talking about transportation first. Actually, you can take these in any order you prefer, but transportation, landscaping, biophilia, sustainability, community benefits, and
no, all right. So many of you likely are familiar with how I like to do this. I like to go around the table first with informational or clarifying questions, and then with comments or statements or concerns, etc. As an example, I will be asking the applicant, as an example of an informational or clarifying question, we'll be asking the applicant, and I'm not asking you now, but I will be, whether the 50% EV ready goal means 50% inclusive of the original 40, or 50% on top of the original 40, meaning 90%. Don't answer now. But
15%.
15. You said 15. So
15, not 50.
I thought I heard you say 40 at start, and then
No, 4.
this is why we ask the clarifying questions.
And the whole remains.
The question then means, you know, it'll be the same question, right? Like it's not, we're not talking 19, we're talking 4 and then 15.
4 and 15.
15 inclusive. So that's an example of a clarifying question.
Actually, let me make sure that we say that and get a clear answer.
Yeah.
Is it starts at 4
Yes.
and it would max out at 15, or would it max out at 19?
No, max out at 15.
Okay.
Okay. So that was, forget about the numbers, please. Forget about the numbers that I said. But that's an example of, I will interrupt you if I don't think you're coming to a question. That's not about you. It's about respecting people's time. As a reminder, the first time around, please remind us of your name and affiliation up front, at least for the first time around. We will need to get to public comment by 8:30 because we have at least 15 people signed up for public comment. There are 11 people at the table. That means each of us has a little over 3 minutes of floor time inclusive of the answers that we get. So Lori, we'll start with you.
Yes, Lori Martin, Turnberry Tower. In looking at your slide that showed the vehicular parking entry and exit, head in and head out, parking garage on Fort Myer Drive. The slide seems to show that you have accounted for 1 parking garage exit that currently existed, but there are currently 2 parking garage exits. There's now 1 for the hotel and 1 for Turnberry Tower, and they are almost directly in line with the parking garage exit that you have. So has that been taken into account?
Can we bring up the slide maybe to take a look at it?
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
It's
No.
it's the purple with the blue arrow.
While we're bringing that up, I think probably Rick from the slide may have a response there.
Sure, and I think what you're describing is the 2 on the west side.
Yes, there's 2 on the west side by side.
Yes.
And this would be adding 1 on the more easterly side.
Yes, and the one on the east side, and I don't know.
A better one, sorry.
Yeah, I think you can see it here. It's the one, so the one for the site on the east side right there, yep, is in between the 2 on the west side. So you can see this for cuts.
And okay, thank you for the clarifying that it was taken into consideration, but I'll have a point of concern later.
Thank you.
Adam Green, Public Art. I maybe may have already been discussed outside of this, but is the public art contribution, is it a cash contribution
intent, or is it part of integrated into the?
Mr. Green, I can respond to that. I think at this point, we're going to be doing the standard site plan condition, which you're probably familiar with, but for those who are not, it provides the option to either do a cash contribution or to commission a piece from food that's kind of determined as you go through the process. So we haven't settled on one option or the other at this point.
Thank you.
Is this any comments or questions?
Clarifying questions.
Just clarifying questions. And only about transportation.
About any of the 4 topics.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for that question, because we're not going to go around for each of the 4 topics. We'll just.
So on Langston Boulevard, is there a protected bike lane? Because there was a couple of pictures that were shown and it wasn't protected, but I thought I heard someone say that it was intended to be protected eventually. Okay, yeah, so that, but then the pictures didn't show a protected.
They showed us stripes. I think the renderings, and I'm gonna just say we don't get this very well. The renderings don't show the curb stops and the bollards pretty consistently.
And so it will be.
But it will be, but there's the space for it.
Okay. Okay, that's. And I have a general question about sustainability, which is, maybe you can get to me about this later. Why aren't you doing green building incentive program? Like, you're doing a lot of what it entails, but you're not like getting there. And since we're talking about improving the program, I'm just wondering generally, like, what stopped you?
Commissioner Peterson, I think I can respond to some of that. You know, the distinction between what qualifies for the incentive program and what doesn't, as you're probably aware, but again, for the benefit of some folks who may not be, is frequently some of the extras, right? So LEED Gold is part of it, but then there are certain extras that you need to achieve in order to get that additional density. In this case, we didn't have the need based on what we've looked at for affordable housing. We didn't have the need for the additional density associated with the green building incentive policy program. There are also some elements of the design, given that we've got 3 buildings here, given that we've got 1 condo for sale building, that made that a little trickier to get to the numbers that got you to the green building incentive program. However, as we talked about, we're very proud of what we're able to achieve with respect to our sustainability, including LEED Gold and some of the other items that.
Ms. Diaz, we'll come to you. Thank you.
No clarifying.
Thank you.
Mine is about parking. I happen to live across the Key development. Okay, what kind of internal parking do you have for visitors, Uber, pickups, deliveries, Amazon, FedEx, and the thousands of cars that come in front of my house every single day? There are, on a snowy day, there were 10% of the people ordered DoorDash on that street. Can you imagine what that was like? It was a highway on a snowstorm. So are you providing internal places for people to do drop off and pick up for Ubers, for DoorDash and food deliveries, as well as Amazon, and for, all FedEx and those kind of places?
A great question. And Felice, do we think we can walk through kind of where the PUDO opportunities are here?
Yes, I think so. It's shown on the screen here. So we do have we have external, like on-street parking and PUDO locations. So I can walk through those kind of first, and then we can talk about the parking internal. But you can see here on the along Fort Myer, there's one that says on-street parking on the north end of Fort Myer. That's actually going to be on-street parking and PUDO pickup drop off along that section. Also, the on-street parking along 19th will also.
How many spaces is that?
It's a fair number of spaces because it's a long section of parking. I don't know if I don't have it handy, but yeah, it's a good number of spaces along that section. The spaces, and I think this is one of the updates that just didn't get the set, but the parking along 19th will also be pickup drop off. And then we're looking at also another section of pickup drop off on Moore. So kind of one area of pickup drop off for each of the 3 towers.
So 3 of the 4 sites, sorry.
Yeah.
And does that include the Uber? I mean, it includes the Amazon trucks and they're going to stop on the street and take the stuff inside?
So I think this gets to some of the root of modern service delivery.
Yes.
We as a county have established loading docks. We are, like every jurisdiction in the country, frankly, having challenges with getting vehicles into those docks, regardless of whether they're provided. So I would say that the projects are providing loading. The violations of the law by the
I mean, police could make a fortune on my street.
We will let them know.
It is almost never not double parked on my street.
They consider it a cost of doing business.
Right. But it is, I mean, I do think the more you can do internal and have it available and you do it part of the package you give to the renters. So they know they can tell the drivers. I mean, if you don't tell them, they don't know.
And I think that one of the things we're learning.
Ms. Pearl, I promised that I would be picking on someone. This is something I would consider this moving into the
Yes.
area of comments.
Okay.
Marty, any other questions?
Oh, I have more, but okay, I want to know, okay, I know if this is, no, I have a comment later, not a question.
Okay, Mr. Scott.
Not for me right
Thank you, Ms. Pearl. Right. Thank you for being a good sport. Ms. Diaz, sorry.
Thank you so much. My name is Liliana Diaz and I am with the Commission on Energy and Climate. And I have a series of questions for you regarding the design of the building that in your presentation shows the features of sustainable design. I understand you're not applying for the Green Building Incentive Policy or Program, but I wonder if you had considered installing renewable energy side and whether your design is accounting for the future, whether your installation design will permit that deployment if you're not considering right now. And the reason why is because we are going into a direction of electrification and renewable energy decarbonization. The other question I had is whether you are hoping or are budgeting for purchasing of renewable energy if you're not installing solar PV in your building right now. Your design is not. And other questions refer to decarbonization. For example, beyond the electrification of domestic hot water, what other systems are being electrified to reduce the building's carbon footprint? I noticed in your sustainability scorecard document that you are proposing to use gas boilers for supplemental heating. And I wonder in your design, in your modeling, if you consider any other options to reduce fossil fuel use. If your design is accounting for embodied carbon, meaning the carbon that it is in your materials, there is no information whatsoever in your materials on that. And if your project plan addresses operational carbon emissions over the building's lifetime, and that refers to future changes that you would have to do. Also, is your EV charging infrastructure installed to support the transition to electric vehicles? And so how it will be future proof, meaning that you are capped at 15%, maybe in 10 to 15 years, we will go beyond that. How is your design accounting for that? And have your team conducted a life cycle carbon assessment? And if so, what were the findings and the resulting design decisions that you made? And how will your building be designed to adapt to future climate conditions and increase resilience? Because the physical impacts of climate change are hitting us every day, and we should be thinking about how resilient your structure is going to be against those impacts. I also have questions about water conservation. In your documents, it says that you have strategies implemented to reach 30 to 35 water use reduction. You have that target, but what are the strategies that you have implemented? There is no information in your documents. On biophilia, and I don't know if I could talk about this. That's also a topic that we cover.
Yes, it's a raise the questions now, and then we'll do comments when we get around.
How will the building incorporate opportunities for residents to connect with nature throughout the seasons? That's an important point. And are there plans for community gardens edible landscapes and other opportunities for residents to engage with plant cultivation that will give you brownie points. On the urban heat island effect, how specifically does your landscape plant and biophilic design approach address urban heat island effect throughout the project? I noticed that your sustainability scorecard says that you have calculated that, but there is no information to support that statement. For example, have you considered strategies for roof surfaces, hardscape arenas, and vertical surfaces that will help reduce ambient temperature increases, especially considering that your proximity to the Gateway Park and the Potomac River? On light pollution and bird-friendly design, given that you're so close to the park and also the river, which is an important bird habitat and migration route, what specific lighting strategies and materials are being implemented to reduce light pollution and prevent bird collisions with the glass facades?
Yes, I'm going to ask you to go ahead.
That's it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't remember.
No, these are good questions, and even if they're not able to be answered tonight, they become part of the follow-up on the record. Mr. Whitmore.
Yeah, I thank you. I appreciate it. I can answer a lot of these, and I may turn to some other folks for a couple of these, but thank you for taking a hard look and talking through these. I'm going to go through each of these that you've mentioned here in order. So in terms of renewable energy, we've taken a look at that. The building footprints in the roof area are not conducive to providing renewable energy opportunities on site, but that is something we've taken a look at. Two of your questions were somewhat related, that to the effect of future proofing and electrification and decarbonization and electrification. We're very proud that we've been able to provide all electric appliances in the majority of the buildings, not all of them, not in the condo building, but in the vast majority of them through the rental buildings. That's a result of market conditions for the condo units. And we also obviously have some gas for potential restaurant tenants in the above. Yes, exactly.
Can I ask you why not induction?
I don't know the answer to that, why we haven't done it. But I think that's a market issue, right? Where we're able to do the electrification on the rentals, but not necessarily on the condos. I don't know that induction's one that we've looked at closely, and our environmental consultant may be able to talk about that a little better. Certainly in terms of the EV charging, we talked a little bit about the percentages, 14 and 5, not 50 and 40. But certainly, to the extent that the market changes, right, and that electric vehicles become the norm, that's something that we're going to respond to in terms of market conditions. Typically, we're limited by demand and the vault size and the generator size. So that's a conversation that has to happen with multiple parties, right? It's not something we can unilaterally draw necessarily enough electricity for the entirety of the garage, but certainly if market conditions change, that's something we're going to be looking at to serve our tenants, if for no other reason.
If I may ask you, in your design, are you accounting for that specific increase or like the electrical design? Because not only you would have to get the electricity and
No,
the rent.
we're not. I mean,
No?
it's a super long conversation. Happy to go into extensive amount of detail. We did it up the hill at the Highlands project. To the Highlands project, we probably think about 100 EV parking spaces. You need one dedicated 480 volt transformer. That draws enough. So the one transformer that we had that was dedicated to providing power for 100 parking spaces was enough power to run a 400,000 square foot building. The electric car charging stations that require the 208 volts that give you the car charge overnight draw tremendous energy that is not possible in the grid. In addition to that, they're going to require about a 17 by 17 by 17 foot space below grade that's going to eat up the below grade spot for your bike spots, tree pits, sidewalks for cafes. And so there just isn't room in the infrastructure. If it is available at a future date and time, we're happy to study it, but it is not something that literally exists today. There is just not enough power to power these electric vehicles. And then that throws in the complications of the building inspector doesn't want electric parking proliferate because of the fire risk associated. So it's just this like kind of ripple effect associated. So we've spent a lot of time studying that.
Ms. Diaz, Mr. Whitmore, I want to just be mindful of, we've got about 20 minutes before we've got to get to public comment, and I want to get everyone else.
I can talk about all that stuff.
I would, instead of wasting everybody's time with my questions.
It's not a
I-
waste, this is important stuff.
I would love for you to answer these questions in writing so that we can have proper answers.
Mr. Whitmore, if you would send that to Mr. Watson, and then we'll get it circulated to everyone.
And more specifically, if you have your questions already typed out, please send them to us.
Yeah,
We'll
we can-
work with the applicant.
And if new ones come to mind, send them to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of quick ones. How many bike spaces are there in the tower?
We have an aggregate for all three.
Yeah, that's 346 long-term, 24 short. Short-term? 24.
And the 24 would be scattered throughout the streetscape. The long-term are in the three different rooms, 2 of which are accessible from the street.
Awesome. And then for the residential parking spaces, are they reserved parking spaces or are they just like open? I know you said there were visitor parking spaces as well.
Yeah, the visitor is a function of when you use the residential parking working group recommendations. You have to do, I think it's 0.05 for the first 200 units are visitor, but that's why we've delineated them that way, not because we intend to necessarily block them off, at least at this point. There may become with later garage plans.
Okay, cool. And then the corner of Fort Myer and 19th Street, I just, out of curiosity, how long is that crosswalk that like, on the slide 15, it's like the very bottom left corner? I'm just curious about how big that crosswalk. No, off the top of your head, if not, that's.
You can do it in 10 seconds.
Is it crossing Fort Myer?
Fire
Yeah, that's
19th,
right.
I know the light gives you 32 seconds.
I'll go with that.
I can get around to 11.
I believe it's like a 5 lanes. It's probably 55.
We can get
that's fine. Okay, I should have clarified. Both of those are right.
All right,
on
Who's counting?
Anything less than 12, you gotta run.
Exactly.
10.
Back to Mr. Hussein.
Yeah, sorry. And then just really last question. Parking ratio, I think you said was 0.2, I believe, which is fine. I mean, it's on the lower end, but was there a way to make it even lower, just considering that Roslyn's a pretty densely populated area? Is there any room to make it lower?
Yeah, I think a large part of it's kind of the demand for the unit types, right? And I think one of the things we're really proud of here is providing some different unit types that we don't typically see, particularly larger units and for sale units, and that drives a higher parking ratio. So bigger than you might see in some of the old rental product that come out.
Okay, awesome. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Tillman.
Yeah, transportation. Will the condo parking spaces be sold separately from the units? Or do they come up together?
Likely separate.
Okay, good. The loop roads, who owns it? Is it county right of way? Is it county has an easement through it, or is it privately owned currently?
It's mixed. A portion of it is owned in fee by the county, where they own the underlying interest. Portion of it is owned in fee by the developer, but with a county easement over top of it, both of which require vacations in order to build or to harvest the density.
Okay, so you're gonna be doing that independently.
The vacations were principally covered and extended as part of the original
The
site plan.
original one. Okay.
So
that's what you take care of. Who owns the skywalk? Who maintains the skywalk?
Arlington County maintains the skywalk.
Who owns it?
I would, I don't have a definitive, but since the county maintains it, I'm pretty certain that the county owns the skywalk. We have the authority from VDOT, and there's no question about the county has the authority to determine the future of the skywalk.
When the skywalk gets into the building, is that door always open, and is there 24/7 a way to walk into that building and down and out again?
There is an opening. It does not have a doorway. It is a pretty dingy set of stairs that goes down on.
But it's always open.
Yes.
There's no door.
Okay, I mean, it's one of the few skywalks I haven't. Tried a number of the other ones.
It's almost like a circular staircase going.
Yeah, it's very, very tight and very dingy.
And that's owned by the building, presumably.
Yeah,
Can
I
we get
would,
a confirmation?
Yeah, we'll probably, I can check.
Yeah, those are my questions.
I.
Jim, tell me, planning commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Latomi. I have one question, I think, and then we'll get to the people online. The intersection of Fort Meyer and 29, Langston Boulevard, I think that that's probably our busiest intersection at this site. I have only seen traditional crosswalks. Has there been any thought given to a more aggressive pedestrian friendly model like a Barnes dance or a raised table or something that would follow through on the need for the pedestrian experience? And maybe the question, well,
let me follow up with that.
Okay.
I mean, the operations of the signal is a county issue. It is not an issue with the building. The county will make all determinations of that, and regardless of this building being there or not. It is our intention to advance, foster, and fund public safety at grade at that intersection.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Gibson. I'll wait to hear back from you on that upcoming meeting. Let's go to Ms. Gubata. Commissioner Gubata.
Hey, Karen, if you're online,
Karen, if you're muted, we'll go to Mr. Goodman and then we'll go back to you, Karen.
Hello, this is Eric Goodman with the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. It looks like a lot of things that I was thinking about have already been covered. Pickup and drop off for the most part is covered. I didn't hear about if there's any pickup and drop off within the building itself. Is there any means for picking up and dropping off residents within the building, or do they have to walk out to those parking areas at the street? And then I'd still like to understand a little bit more. I don't think the county is fully developed along Langston, the crossing and the tie-in to Gateway Park. I really would like to see more safety improvements on
Mr. Goodman,
that.
I'm gonna ask you to put a pin in that one until we get back around to comments. If you have any other questions, now would be the time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Karen.
Do you-
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Karen, but is there an answer to the PUDO?
With respect to the PUDA, Mr. Goodman, that there will be arms at the entrances. So it'll typically be for those 3 PUDO streets on the surface is what we're going to provide.
Thanks, Mr. Woodward. Ms. Gubata, Commissioner Gubata.
Sorry, I'm having mic issues, but nothing further from me. I don't have any questions.
All right, thank you. Thank you. We will hopefully get back to you with any comments you have. We'll go around quickly with just any comments anyone wants to leave, mindful of the fact that there are 11 of us, and I want to start public comment in a little over 10 minutes.
Seconds. One, I do have a point of clarification after more points. I know there is now a mix of for sale and for rent units. I'd like to know the breakdown for sale and for rents. And my second point is just a point of concern. I think those 3 parking garage doors essentially making a zigzag right onto Fort Meyer, which is a very busy road. I think there's going to be a lot of traffic congestion problems in that area, especially when you've got a head in, head out. You've got a head in and head out. And, you've got 3 head in, head outs. I think there's going to be a lot of traffic congestion issues right there, and I think that's an area we need. I'm done.
In terms of public art, I think that whether it ends up going to a commission piece or a cash contribution, just like to say out loud just the importance of having the awareness that you've got this open space at the park in front of you, which creates a really wonderful activation opportunity, and people gather, and that also people gather around art, public art especially since you have the park in that proximity. So finding a very thoughtful way to integrate that into this plan, whether it ends up being a commission piece or something is an opportunity to really like create an activated space that's engaging for everybody.
So if you started out showing us the updates to the podium transition, I'll say for myself, I don't see like a big difference from the before and the after, but if staff's okay with it, then I'm fine with it. But if you guys feel like you need ammo to say like more needs to be done, consider my ammo. I really liked the biophilic kind of like podium roof that you've done. I did wonder, is that open to the public? Okay, so but that whole podium rooftop is open to the 3 people in the building. It's like an area for them to.
It's essentially a courtyard.
Okay, a nice courtyard. Okay, and then I'd love to see rooftop gardening up there. They have some programs where if the residents don't want to garden, there's third parties that can come in and grow plants and fruit and vegetables that can be donated to shelters. So we'd love to see that. I love the idea of having kind of the biophilia hanging over the awning in the front of the building. If that could be expanded as much as possible, I think that'd be beautiful. I'm also interested, since it's the north side of the building, is everything going to die during like the winter months? So as much as you can keep it green year round and as much green as possible, that would be lovely to complement the park across the street. And I'm interested in the community benefits. The original 2012 approved site plan had a large sum of money, I think 7.5 million for Gateway Park. I don't know if that much money is going to be needed for Gateway Park going forward, since we sold the usage of observation deck. I know the boathouse project is nearby and something that we are looking, it's in the CIP, but I don't think any money has been kind of found for it. So if this project had money for the boathouse, that could be used. I'm done.
I want to salute the applicant in terms of approach to biophilia. It's like you've been responsive. The green thread is a great concept, and I don't know how anyone couldn't like it. But there are not a whole lot of specifics at this point, and appreciate any detail you could flesh out on that. Specifically with respect to plantings, it looks like, for example, for some bushes and shrubs from your renderings that would attract pollinators. And with the 6th floor landscape area, we haven't asked any questions about that because it's not public, but that also is an opportunity for pollinators and shrubs and bushes of that type of thing. I was going to suggest that you coordinate with the Gateway Park people, but you're 2 steps ahead of me and you're doing that. I think it's great. Having said that, I think you might want to coordinate with them on more specifics than just the planting. For example, benches, water fixtures, whatever type of community choices are there, because they're going to finish, I suspect, before your constructions. You'll have ample opportunity to copy as need be. And again, with respect to filling out the details, I think bird-friendly glass is an excellent question. There should be a lot of birds around that area and coming up the river, if nothing else, plus the garden, and plus the park. And one last pitch for public art. I know it's easy to give a contribution, but this really is a great site to make a public art statement if you go that direction. So my comments.
Steve, just real quick, just, the DPR team for our Parks and Recreation team for the park are all on the line. So they've heard your comment and we will continue to coordinate.
Pick up quickly on both of those. We talked this last time on the balconies. It's important that you have water available so that they can actually have green balconies. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen. Carrying those gallons of water out doesn't work. That's back time last time. 2 things a couple things we talked about before, and this may be staff. We have asked from North Roslyn has no public EV charging. We have asked that some of the parking spaces on Fort Myer, 2 of them become public EV charging stations. That's to you, I guess. We also would like to know very much, we worry very much about right now, the RCA building, the backup and the entrance to their residential parking overlap. It is going to be a zoo compared, and you have two parking other side. And I said this last time, and I listened to what you said, so I came up with an idea. No bus I've ever seen, I live in Roslyn, makes it from a curb lane to a curb lane right turn without swinging into a lane on one side or the other. The radius on that corner needs to be softer. And Daniel brought up very carefully and cleverly that cars sometimes speed around softer curves. But there's no reason there can't be a sign there that says no through traffic except buses. Because everyone will be either a resident going on that street or they will be a delivery on that street. There is no reason for cross traffic on North Moore between Langston and 19th. And if you do that, I think you will really make that a much safer street for people to walk on and to drive on, for people getting in and out of it. I think it will make a huge difference. We still would like a grocery store, but I know where that's going. You know, in Roslyn planning, we need a grocery. Okay, that's it.
Okay, two quick points on transportation. Number one, the skywalk system, I know it's a county goal to get rid of it. It's going to be tough for people who are used to that. I'm thinking that there's a concern on my end of having a meaningful substitute for that is ADA accessible for people to get from one end of the other. And then the second point, when it comes to parking, if you all find out that it's overparked, something that a lot of other developers are doing now is creating temporary commercial parking, visitor parking, any kind of like sharing of parking lots. That I found that to be an interesting response. So saying if we have downtown, we're Roslyn, a lot of people are taking metro, they're not having cars, probably work something out to open up a lot, to share it with other people. And then a third comment on behalf of Commissioner Peterson and myself, we love the 3-bedroom units, so we'd love to see more of those in the affordable housing mix. Family-sized units, 2-bedroom dens, 3 bedrooms, those are all things we want.
I don't have comments, I have lots of questions.
Thank you again for raising them.
My only comment. Just to closely consider the types of the native understory and species and making sure that they're supporting the maximum amount of wildlife that is utilizing the adjacent park. Also, fantastic that you're extending those tree beds adjacent to the park wherever that can be possible, potentially to a 7-foot width. That would additionally decrease that impervious surface, which is so important being adjacent to the river. And again, bird friendly glass, especially on that side facing. But fantastic presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. I don't have much. I think my only comment is there's a lot of people that live in this area, so all those intersections, just I think I encourage like things like raised crosswalks, delayed signal crossings, things that just encourage more of that road diet. That's a term that my friends across the river don't really like, but you know, like the larger sidewalks, that's fantastic. That just makes it so much easier to walk in that area. So all of those like elements of making it a safer space for the vulnerable users and the road users. Crosswalk, all of those elements, I think, as you go through, those will be really, really helpful. Yeah, going forward. And yeah, I like the variety in housing. That's fantastic, especially in Arlington. We need that kind of diversity in housing. Good job. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Wetzel.
Yeah, protected bike lanes, great we have them, but they have to be done right. They should be like up further up Wilson Boulevard, truly protected, separate with real curbs separating it from the street rather than plastic bollards or those low little lumps. Otherwise cars or trucks, delivery trucks are going to go over and park on those. Bollards really don't make anybody feel safe when they bike, especially on Langston Boulevard where traffic goes pretty fast. If you want to encourage people to bike, they have to feel safe biking, not just have it separate, which is good, but having it a true separated bike lane like on Wilson or you know, the Rixie up in Ballston, you know, that is separated enough that people really feel safe using those. Skywalk counts. The planning commission meetings, I would like to know what the pedestrian count, how many people are using the skywalks now, and how many people are crossing the intersections that are on either side of that. I know we have the numbers on the pedestrian on intersections. I've seen that when we did one of the Roslyn transportation things a few years ago, where there were counts for almost every intersection in Roslyn. So I'd like to also know how many people are actually using the skywalk. I think I heard somebody say that you're not sure what type of ranges you're going to have in the condos. Given the price points of these things, you really should have induction rates. People who are going to be buying those condos are going to expect that. So, all electric is great, but induction is even better. Biophilia is fantastic. I like what you have there, that hanging garden look. That's what we want to see. And Ms. Perl is right. If you're going to have them on the balconies, you really need to have faucet bibs out there. I have a balcony in a condo, and
It's a pain.
it's like, why isn't there a hose bib here? It's like, please put one of those in. Anyway, thank you.
On the hanging gardens point, which I think is great, I just would like to see a condition when we get to it that adequately anticipates some kind of maintenance plan. We have seen really good hanging gardens projects before, like the Pentagon Center parking deck, that you would not know today had anything of the kind. So that's and my other comment is that I telegraphed this one with my question, but given the connection of this site to the park, and given the through traffic from the park down to the metro, I think we really need to see something that is a fairly aggressive, pedestrian friendly intersection treatment. That's given your comment, Mr. Gibson, that's directed at you and your team. And hopefully I'll be interested to see what you have to show us and what your thoughts are when we next speak.
Can I just address your first comment?
Yeah.
I would just say, I'd like to think we've gotten better at addressing that through conditions, and there will most likely be condition language to make sure that those plantings are maintained in line with the site plan.
That's great.
So just so you know,
and that was the answer to a similar project before, but it was so bad that you're never going to not hear it again.
Well,
that's not staff's fault. That's not.
That's why I'm here.
It was a good project. It was a good project.
Listen.
It didn't become a good great hanging garden. Karen, Commissioner Betta, anything from you? On you.
No.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodman.
I have nothing further now.
All right, thank you all. We're going to go to public comment. We have 2 minutes each. Given the number of people who have signed up, I believe that we have 15 in person and 2 online. Ms. Green, I'm going to have you call off, and I think that we should take the online people first.
Sure. We only had 2 signups online. First would be Green Burn, and then next we'll have Joseph Peterson.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I missed part of this meeting, but when I was looking at the plans, I didn't see any sign of a green roof or solar panels on the roof. If you're calling it biophilic, it doesn't have that, as far as I could tell. The other thing is that they did not send any plant lists except for the trees. This isn't going to happen in the future because they recently changed Administrative Regulation 4.1, so they have to put a plant palette in. But we can't review the plants without a plant palette. They put a few trees in, and that's all. So please, before the planning commission, submit something with lists of all your plants. I know you have a lot of space for plants. They're mostly inside the building, unfortunately. They're not as available to the public, but at least we would like to see these plants have pollinators, especially common milkweed. But please provide that list before the planning commission. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to tell the county board and the planning commission that, hey, you didn't do this, and it would be nice if they did. And so this is going to be required in the future for projects. But biophilia, I don't think it's really biophilic without a green roof. Oh, somebody commented about one that contribute to the boathouse. That boathouse annex is going, if it's part on county properties, if they build it ever, it's going to destroy a bunch of trees. it's one thing Roslyn doesn't need. And the boathouse people were supposed to contribute to this, and I haven't heard they actually have come up with any money. But we don't want to, developers to think of a lot better projects to put it on than to give it to the boathouse, which is going to cut down trees. It has not been through environmental assessment, so we don't know what will happen, but typically the county ignores environmental assessments if somebody gives them money. So we don't want really this. Some people might, but I think most really aren't going to use the boathouse. Okay, that's about all I have to say, but give that plant list and make sure you put in a common milkweed, Asclepias syriaca. That's the one that monarchs lay their eggs on, and they really don't prefer others, or the others don't survive. Thank you.
Mr. Burns?
Next is Joseph Peterson.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Can I just get a quick thumbs up if you can hear me?
Yeah.
All right, great. So my name is Joseph Peterson, and I'm a Roslyn resident who is speaking in support of the pedestrian and bike facility improvement proposed in this plan. The Gateway Park renovation and numerous other developments, including this one, are going to draw a lot more people to this area. And it's an important opportunity to enhance access to the park, to the Key Bridge and other nearby trails. My support includes removing the pedestrian bridge over Langston Boulevard as called for in the Roslyn sector plan and as discussed during the 2012 site plan for this same location. I think there's numerous issues with rebuilding an accessible bridge in a densely populated neighborhood like this, including practical ones like the slope requirements for the approach ramps on both sides. These bridges also are pretty big, like maintenance liabilities. The one that crosses 50 here in Roslyn is an eyesore. It's not well maintained. And I fear the same thing would happen for any new pedestrian bridges. As recently as 2022, that bridge failed an engineering inspection and had to be closed to pedestrian traffic. Since the vast majority of people will choose to cross at grade here instead of taking some huge detour, I instead hope that you all and county staff can more transparently involve VDOT for the safety improvements that are needed here. The Langston Boulevard STARS study is ongoing, so hopefully everyone involved with this project can coordinate with them on that effort and specifically prioritize the intersections next to this site.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Yep.
We have one more addition online, Connor Anderson, if you want to go with him next.
Yeah, thank you. We'll do that. I'm going to cap new signups at this point. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, hello. I am a Roslyn resident, and I work in an office building next to Wilson Boulevard and Lynn Street. I'm also voicing support for the removal of the skywalk system. In particular, I've never found a reason to take the skywalk over Langston Boulevard at Moore Street, and I'm not sure I've ever even seen someone on it, but of course, getting actual numbers on the traffic would be informative. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. You, Ms. Green.
So next we have Mike Doyle.
Hello, my name is Mike Doyle. I'm a crash survivor. I founded the Arlington Families for Safe Streets, as well as we have chapters in Fairfax. And we're about pedestrian safety. We have a near miss app. We do a lot of data analytics, near miss about measuring where close calls are. One of those things we did in terms of data analytics is look at the treads data, which is from VDOT, crash history around this park on board both the north side and the south side on Fort Myer and on Lynn. The results are here. I'd be happy to share that with everybody. From 2016 to 2025, there were 28 crashes. The split between the north and the south. Fort Myer is the location where more severe injuries, I mean very severe injuries, have happened. It's interesting that the people that were crashed into, 92% of them were in the light. They had the permission to cross, and it was done. And most of these crashes happened in the daytime. We have talked to city police streets people, DES, Dan Neighbors. He showed us a mock-up of what he's doing on the street changes, particularly at Fort Myer and Lynn. And they look good. We applaud that. They need to be done. But they don't solve the problem. A sky bridge will solve the problem. Properly ADA compliant new bridge. It allows people with handicaps, allows young, allows old. Some people go in the streets, but other people will have that choice. Don't take that away from them. 5,000 people living in this area.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. And please send the study, if you haven't already, to Mr. Watson, A. at arlingtonva.us.
And Mr. Doyle, I can take that. If you have paper copy, I'll take it from you later after the meeting as well. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is John Kelly.
John Kelly. I'd like to thank the county for making an already good record for legal challenges to removing the skywalk even better. I'll start with a quote from Max Ewert during the board meeting on December 14th. He said, "The pedestrian bridge over eastbound Langston Boulevard is planned to be removed as part of the site plan to redevelop the site there. But that doesn't mean that the county staff on the Gateway Bridge project don't agree that a lot of the issues folks have raised about pedestrian safety. It helped us come to the conclusion that pedestrian bridges were necessary in the areas where we can have control over them." He then claimed that the county didn't have control over the bridges. In fact, it was part of the site plan. Little did we know it was a over a decade old site plan. And meanwhile, Penzance had been talking with the county about their new site plan that also didn't include that bridge. So the fact that Mr. Ewert said the county had no control over it, and then I hear today, a direct quote, the county has control over whether or not the bridge is demolished, flies in the face of what the county's representative for. So, I'm just going to leave the record as it stands because it's a very good one for the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Allie Henry.
Hi, everybody. My name is Allie Henry. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Roslyn bid. First off, we just want to take this opportunity to thank the SPRC members, thank the county staff, and thank the project team for the thoughtful and constructive discussions this evening. And throughout this process, we've appreciated Penzance's approach to meeting with various stakeholders and working to incorporate both county staff and our community's feedback into their design proposal. Enhancing Roslyn's public realm and mobility are key priorities for the Roslyn bid and our stakeholders. We remain committed to transportation policies that prioritize transportation safety and advancing Roslyn's walkable urban lifestyle. We stand firmly behind the adopted Roslyn sector plan, the core of Roslyn transportation study, and the Gateway Park master plan, which all support the adopted guidance of prioritizing at-grade crossings and designing our streets to be safe, comfortable, and accessible for all ages and abilities. Beyond the scope of OneRosslyn, we stress the importance of Arlington County's continued coordination with VDOT to further evaluate and address Langston Boulevard's existing safety challenges and longer-term transportation needs as we welcome more folks into our neighborhood and plan for the future Gateway Park in Arlington. Appreciate your consideration this evening and the opportunity.
Next is Jamie Kern.
Before you start the top back, procedural question. Can we submit comments since we only have 2 minutes for first? Yes. Can we later submit comments by email sometime?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll breathe as I'm speaking then. Anytime.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Okay, thank you. So my name is Jamie Kern. I'm an energy engineer who moved to DC to work on long-term energy and climate policy. I'm on the Arlington County's Energy Committee as a volunteer, but I'm speaking right now, of course, as a resident in that capacity.
And I'm targeting specifically the preliminary energy model report that was from October 2024, version 2.1. I'm concerned that, first of all, beautiful building, looking forward to having it in Arlington. And as I look at it from an energy engineer lens, I'm concerned that maybe some cost cutting and short-term energy systems decisions might be made in the name of market conditions, as we've heard several times today, but are actually detrimental to the future of all of the tenants of the building. So I'm going to start with table 1, annual building performance summary. You said a year 1 estimate of carbon emissions is 3,600 tons, and the 25-year estimate is 44,500 tons. Well, if you multiply 25 years by the first year, you actually get 90,000 tons. So it's literally twice what the 25-year estimate is. It's nice to know how you cut the emissions in half after the first year. But also in that table, the annual energy estimate of $1.4 million for the use of the building is based on a massive underestimate of the gas price that's used in this table, as well as the high temperature values that are used in the baseline parameters. So table 8, baseline parameters, you have an EI estimated per gas price of like $1.20 per therm, but it was actually $1.70 a therm that year, and gas prices are much more variable than electricity prices. They're going to increase as we produce less but export more gas as a country. So keep that in mind. Long-term gas prices will increase much faster than long-term electricity prices, including the way that this grid is developing. Additionally, the design parameters for a 92-degree Fahrenheit high, when we already hit 98 degrees 2 years ago at the high, and we are guaranteed full uncertainty about the grid. I'll add much more later, but I question the assumptions on energy that can save a fortune to tenants over the next cycle.
Great. Next is Aaron Roberts.
Hi, I'm Aaron Roberts, and I'm here to urge you to build an ADA compliant bridge at the site. And I would like to take this as an opportunity to do a little bit of myth busting. So myth number 1, if you invest in a pedestrian bridge, at grade crossing suffers. No one suggested this. No one actually thinks that you should invest in one rather than the other, not mutually exclusive. And I'd love to see the financial modeling that shows that Penzance can't make an appreciable margin on this project by doing that. Myth number 2, pedestrian bridges are bad transportation engineering in general. Not the opinion of the VDOT district engineer who oversees this site, not the opinion of other august transportation leaders in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Pedestrian overpasses, they have a time and a place. This is one of them. Myth number 3, public sentiment on this topic is mixed. So government transparency laws exist for a reason. Grateful that the county preserves the data from all of the surveys it's conducted. The last one on this topic, the math is pretty clear. 83% are in favor of this bridge. Myth number 4, it is not possible to build an ADA compliant bridge at this site. Now, no one close to this project has actually made this suggestion. We've got a lot of brilliant designers in the room. I think they'd like to see a challenge. Give them a challenge. I think they can solve it. Myth number 5. This is a very important myth. Heard a lot about it today. Arlington County policy says that this bridge must come down. Arlington County policy has a commitment to Vision Zero, which says that it's committed to eliminating all traffic fatalities and severe injuries. Also, and I'm sure you've all read it, but in case you haven't read it recently, page 3 of the Roslyn Sector Plan, and I quote, says that the Roslyn Sector Plan is not a regulatory document. It also goes on to say that it invites creativity from developers. Finally, myth number 6.
Thank you, that's time, thank you. Who's 3?
The next up is Helen Harris.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Helen Harris. I'm a resident at Roslyn. And I'd like to thank everyone for the thoughtful discussion this evening. According to Arlington County data on crash hotspots, Langston Boulevard, Fort Myer intersection is the 10th most dangerous in the county. Langston and Lane follows at 11th. These aren't just statistics. These are real lives that are impacted. I know I am one of the victims of a crash at Langston and Fort Myer. On December 2018, while I was crossing Langston with my then 4-month-old in a stroller, I was hit by a truck. I was at the pedestrian crossing. I had the right of way, and yet my life was changed permanently as I lost my leg and became an amputee as a result from that crash. 5 years later, my neighbor from across the street was the victim of a car pedestrian crash at the exact same location under the exact same circumstances. Luckily, her injuries weren't as extensive as mine. The assumption that a pedestrian bridge implicitly tells pedestrians to go around is insulting and misleading. Evidence shows that pedestrians don't view them as such, considering that at grade crossing and pedestrian bridges are not mutually exclusive. Pedestrian bridges merely provide an option for pedestrians, particularly those most vulnerable in our community, such as families with children and those with mobility impairment. As we expand our community and welcome new neighbors, a pedestrian bridge shows that you care about lives saved and that you're willing to protect our community. Yes, streets need to be designed with pedestrians in mind. It's exactly for this reason why we should continue to have a pedestrian bridge at one of the most dangerous crossings in Arlington. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
And finally, we have Chris Slapp.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Chris Slapp. I've been advocating for better and safer infrastructure for walking, biking, and transit in Arlington for almost 20 years, including championing the recently built WNOD pedestrian bridge over Langston Boulevard in East Falls Church. I'm here tonight to support the removal of the pedestrian bridge across eastbound Langston here in Roslyn. Pedestrian bridges have an important place in our Safe Streets toolbox, but that place is not crossing a city street in an active urban downtown. The biggest issue with pedestrian bridges is the necessity of routing them circuitously and how unintuitive they are to use. It's human nature to take the most obvious and intuitive and direct route to your destination, and pedestrian bridges in an urban context like this are neither direct nor obvious. According to the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy, the average pedestrian bridge requires walking 14 times the distance of just crossing the street at grade. And my back of the envelope math indicates that an ADA compliant bridge here would require either 250 feet of ramping on either end, maybe more, or a slow and costly elevators on either end. This circuitousness and lack of intuitive usage means that pedestrian bridges fail to be used by the majority of pedestrians. To give us all a useful data point, because we all love data, I placed a wildlife camera on the existing pedestrian bridge as an El Cheapo pedestrian counter and measured pedestrian usage for about 5 days. Sorry, I was gone for most of spring break. The highest day of usage that I measured was 43 pedestrian trips. As a comparison, the 2 street level crossings see 400 pedestrian trips in just the peak hour, according to the applicant's MMTA. So to be clear, that's 43 pedestrian trips in 24 hours on the skywalk versus 403 pedestrian trips at street level in. Most folks want to cross at street level, and so that's where we have to focus our improvements. A pedestrian scramble or a barn stance should be strongly considered. These are improvements that have a proven track record of lowering crashes and reducing injuries and deaths. A pedestrian bridge here has a proven track record of failure. Over the last decade, many people have been injured crossing in the literal shadow of the existing pedestrian bridge. If a pedestrian bridge here could solve our issues, it would have already.
Thank you, Mr. Slapp. Great. Thank you, everyone, especially people at the table for keeping your comments economical. I wasn't expecting to be 4 minutes ahead of schedule, but I am grateful that we are. Thank you to public commenters for your comments. I want to remind anyone who, especially people who have written comments, I invite you to send them to Mr. Watson. They will be circulated, and for anyone who for example, Mr. Doyle, right? Just a reminder to get either hand a copy or email to Mr. Doyle, and that will be circulated as well. For the good of the order, Mr. Watson, is there anything else that we need to cover?
No, I will send a message out to this SPRC group when we are prepared to head to commission meetings.
Will we also be notified of when you go to transportation?
Yes, Rob will make sure that you get an email.
I'll make sure you put a little black line through my name. I know. Okay.
The Transportation Commission hearing is going to should follow its already advertised schedule. And as far as I know, we are not proposing 2 nights, but if if 2 nights are proposed, we'll make sure that this committee gets an email out.
Do you have, what is the date for that?
It's typically the last Thursday. Well, so we go in July, it'd be the last Thursday in June.
Okay.
I think it's June 3rd.
That sounds right, but if we know that, I will send that out to the group as well. We'll let you know when the plans are resubmitted as well.
Transportation Commission is going to be on Monday, June 30th. It's unusual on a Monday. May 29th is another transportation.
But it would be the June, it would be the June for July.
Yeah.
It would be no sooner than that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation and have a good evening. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Even seeing a few.